When I first read the script, like there was a first half, which was pretty much what it is now, which was great, and I really loved. And there was the scene in the bar with Bill Nighy's character and all that, and that was great. And the second half was kind of was not as good as it should have been yet, and like was not keeping its promises. So what I really liked first of all was the characters, was the dynamic between David and Kaley's character, which was already there. And I really liked this couple and how it worked between the two of them. So getting this right was, I think, a key element for me. And then Kaley was already attached to the project. So my first question was, does Kaley want to go into something slightly more serious than what she usually does? And she said yes. So it felt like, well, okay, so now we can talk. Kaley and David have very different processes. David comes from a British background. He's been trained there. It's very classic, and he needs to interrogate everything, to discuss everything in depth, and every motivation, every line, and so on, which I love. I can go on for hours doing this. I find it really interesting because also for me, it is interesting. Like, I need to know why characters do what they do also. And sometimes actors come up, so the actors who are that kind of actor come up with questions which are interesting for me. And on the other hand, Kaley is a much more, I would say, instinctive actor, but that doesn't quite tell it. She's apparently instinctive. I think it's more that I think she's sort of secretive about her work, about her process. She keeps it, she's been working on such a fast pace with being very efficient for so long. She comes up on set, she knows herself very well. She knows what she's good at. She has that thing about, I've got a sparkle, she always says, and that's what's taken me so far where I am today, that sparkle. And that's what's precious about me. And she's very clever and savvy about how to preserve that. And the two of them interacting was really interesting because they come from different places. It's a thing that could, in some instances, be sort of an issue, but it was not there because it was reflecting the dynamic between the two characters. And it was overlapping the story. And that made it very, very interesting. And by the way, they went along really great, and they had great fun working together, and they were really partners. But they come from different places. They have different cultures, both of them, which is enriching and interesting. The action scenes were not the difficult scenes in the film, because the nature of this film is to be a clever mix between comedy and action, and it's not a full-on action film. So the action had to be efficient and nice and lively and what it had to be, but it was not that difficult. I mean, action is a lot of logistics, but if the logistics are right, well, once you're on set, basically you do what's been planned. I think what was more difficult and challenging, and the days when I showed up to set and on set, and I was a bit kind of, okay, today, it needs to happen. There were some days which I felt were more stressful, and coming out of the car was a bit danced for me. It's like those big performance days, like the bar scene with Kaley, David, and Bill Nighy. Because like when I first read the script, this scene was so central, was such an important scene. So this is what the film was. Like, we knew that if this film was good, if this scene was good, the film was going to be good. If this scene was not good, well, the film would be just a bit flat. And that was challenging. And getting it right, pushing it to really the level where it should be. Such a scene was, to me, challenging. And like, there was something to, it was a battle that had to be won for everyone. And yeah, that's suspenseful. But what he brought is pretty obvious. Like, he brought an incredible intelligence and elegance, which is him. My job was to capture that and to help him be that as much as he could. I think it was more difficult for him because he only had like 5 days and it was in the middle of the shoot. So, you know, for an actor coming in the middle of a shoot where everybody knows everyone already, like the dynamic of the film, of the shoot of production is already on its way. And then you hit the ground running, and it was that bar scene, and he had like 15 pages straight. And for him, like I think he was very anxious. You never think that such actors as Bill Nighy will be afraid of a scene because you feel like, of course they can do it. But they are, and this is why they are who they are, because they don't take themselves for granted. And Bill was extremely insecure and concerned that he couldn't, like, that he was not going to deliver. And at the beginning, like, it showed in his performance, it was a bit like, yeah, it was great, it was good. I mean, Bill is never bad, but it was like, yeah, like, you know, half steam. And I said, Bill, it's great, but I think just turn it up, you know. And I didn't have so much to say. It's be brave, trust yourself. But it's very difficult to tell an actor trust yourself, because that means somehow is not good enough yet. So like it's a paradox. So at first it made him even more insecure. And then I had to really. I remember at one point being behind the set with him and saying, Bill, you're Bill Nighy. There's no way you're not going to be great in this. It's impossible. You're Bill Nighy. You're already Bill Nighy. And then we talked about how bombastic the character had to be, how crazy he had to be that evening. And then the next day when he was driving to set, and the next day, the first take he did was what's in the film now, the one we used predominantly, which was suddenly incredible, suddenly out of this world. And at the end, the whole crew was clapping, and the cast was clapping. Everybody was saying, Bill, you're so good. And suddenly it was like, it felt like he was relieved. But it's incredible to imagine that he has to go through such a painful process to be that man that everybody knows he is. Clearly, David is the more cerebral. Well, his process is cerebral. He needs to understand. He needs to turn every stone. He needs to know everything in order to get rid of it and then feel free when acting. And Kaley is somehow the most instinctive. But once again, it's like it's only the surface. I think, in fact, she's not instinctive. I think, in fact, she works a lot, but it's more secretive. What I hope people are going to see in this film is that it's extremely entertaining, it's extremely fun, and it's a lovely film. And at the same time, there's something deeper about this, because it's about relationships. It's about something that everyone can relate to, about the secrets we keep from one another, even maybe sometimes even not knowing that we keep secrets, like, the very core of our intimacies. And this is what's at play in that story. It's a couple that have been together for 7 years, and they love each other. It's fine, it's all good, but they start being bored a little. I mean, everybody knows that. And that's when, well, they see things that they never saw. So that's an experience everybody knows. In the case of the characters of this film, well, it turns out she's an assassin, which is kind of a big secret, but it's a very universal experience.